It's my pleasure to introduce you to our next inductee, Michael Douglas. Michael attended King City Secondary School from 1985 to 1990. He was not only an excellent student, but he was also an outstanding athlete. He played on 4 championship football teams at King City, and he was a member of the 4x400 relay team that won the Central Ontario Championship. In 1990, Mike entered the University of Toronto. He made the football team in his first year, which was quite an achievement. That's a very, very difficult thing to do for an athlete. After he graduated from U of T, he then went to Fanshawe College. And there he became a radiologist. Presently, Michael is working at the Foothill Medical Center in Calgary. And this bodes him well because of the field of endeavor that he then got into part-time. At the age of 30, Mike took up the sport of skeletal racing. Now, if you're not familiar with this, this is an Olympic sport where you have a sled that's about this big, this long, and the runner takes the sled on the go mark. He heads off as fast as they can and then puts the runner down on the track, speeds down the mountain at speeds of 130 kilometers an hour with his face hanging over the edge of the sled and the nose about an inch off the track. I don't know. I always thought he was an intelligent young man, and he proved to be an intelligent young man up till this point. But the thing about Michael is when I knew him right from the get-go, he was fearless. He played football, and he was absolutely fearless. He wasn't a big individual. He played corner linebacker for us, and he would make tackles that somebody that would be 220 pounds would make. Michael tells me that in the 1 year that we had the big teams, we had only 3 points scored against us, and that was largely due to Coach Mallory, who coached the defense, and players like Michael here, who were just outstanding young people and athletes. Now, in 2010, Mike competed at the Winter Olympics in Vancouver. At this time, in the 2010-11 season, Michael was ranked 13th in the world in this sport, and he was number 2 in Canada. I could go on and on and on, tell you more about Michael, but I think perhaps Michael should say a few words about his sport, because he does have the knowledge far more than I do. So at this time, I would like to introduce you to Michael Douglas.
Great. Sorry, I wrote a few things down. I just want to make sure I get it all in here. Right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me today. What an honor it is to be standing in front of you all, and an even greater honor to stand beside these distinguished graduates of King City. It's more than a little humbling for me to be here because by my accounts I was just a normal kid from down Highway 27 there in Kleinburg. I came to this school in 1985 to 1990 and I don't really feel that I changed the landscape very much while I was here, but I know that King City changed my landscape forever. And so I'm here to tell my story and hopefully inspire a few, but above all to give thanks to those who have helped me find ways to be successful in life. As mentioned, my name is Mike and I'm Olympian. My event was the sliding sports skeleton, so for those of you who don't know what that is, don't worry, I'm here to explain everything. But first, some deserving thanks. First and foremost to my parents who I love so dearly for providing the best example of greatness to follow. To my mother who was valedictorian of her own high school, a career nurse, and giving us unfailing love as children. Thank you so much. To my father, who finished at the top of his University of Toronto Med School class, was a fantastic surgeon, and always encouraged me to pursue my passions without reservation. I thank you. I hope that you see that your great gifts were put to good use, and I'm endeavoring forever to pay that forward. Now, how about the teachers at King City? Let's get to them. You know, they were more than teachers. They were coaches, they were mentors, and they were examples of positive values for us, which pointed us all down the right path in life. For instance, you couldn't have been a student here between 1985 and 1990 and not been aware of how good our football team was. That class of 1990 was involved in York Region Football Championships all 5 years we were here. It was without question a dynasty. It was it took 10 years after we graduated before they could raise that trophy again, and we did it all 5 years that we were here. We didn't stop there. We went on to face the best schools in the surrounding regions. We played against the best from Georgian Bay. We played the best from Durham. We played even the best from big old Toronto, and I think we fared really well. And it was here that I got my first taste of winning and of being a champion and of being proud, and I really liked that feeling. This was the gift that football gave to me, and it only happened because the teachers of this school, most notably Tom Ellison, Mike Mallory, Mike Shavalovich, and certainly head coach Ed Sargentson, you know, they volunteered their free times and their energies to mentor a bunch of young rowdy kids to greatness. They showed us how to set goals, they showed us the value of preparation, and they showed us how to work hard and how to win on the field, which of course gave us the tools to accomplish the same off. So to the coaches of this school, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your caring and for your guidance. You guys are my inspiration. Now, while the teachers provided the foundation of this school, the students certainly provided the spirit. And there's a lot of things I could talk about. I mean, I knew I was surrounded by really talented people when I came to this school. But for me, I was lucky enough to be around some very gifted student athletes as well, which made playing sports at King City a lot of fun. The one thing I wanted to talk about, and it was mentioned there, was one of the highlights of my life, was running track with three fantastic guys, Frank Cafaro, Ivan Joseph, and Dave Pratt. And together we ran the most exciting races of my life. And I've been to the Olympics, and trust me, those races were exciting. The highlight, without question, was the 1989 Officer Track and Field Finals. And the four of us teenagers had made a commitment in September, at the beginning of the year, to become one of the best talents in this event. And that was odd, because none of us were really good at running the 400 meter. Ivan was a converted 100-meter guy. He was our speed freak. Dave, he ran a decent 200 meter. My talents were best suited to the half mile or the 800. And Frank ran long distance events. He ran steeplechase. He ran 3,000. I mean, we must have been dreamers. What chance did we have? Well, at the beginning of the season, you know, the track meets came and they went, and the medals began piling up. And the countless hours of training were now paying off. And there, in the first week of June, there was little old King City in the finals in lane 6 of the 4x400 meter, squaring off against the biggest and best schools Ontario could offer. And we didn't win that race. We didn't even win a medal, but we won gifts that were far greater than that. And I look back on that moment in my life as a day where confidence grew within me. And I found that no matter what the size of the challenge or the opponent in front of me, that a courageous heart will find a way to be successful in life. So, to the students of King City, and especially Frank, Dave, and Ivan, I want to thank you for helping me find these special, special gifts. And I'm forever in your debt, and you are my inspiration as well. I better start talking about the Olympics, because I'm sure you're not here to listen to a few track and football stories, so let's get to it. Skeleton, for all intents and purposes, it's just simply tobogganing, and in that sense, I think we've all experienced it to some degree. I mean, who amongst us hasn't sat on top of a hill on a cold winter's day and looked over at your friend or nemesis and with a wink in your eye said, "I'll race you to the bottom"? Well, that's what skeleton is. The rules have changed a bit, I guess. Instead of crazy carpets, we're now using 80 pounds of welded steel and fiberglass. And we've moved on from the neighborhood hills to the mountains up in the hills there. And we started racing on sheets of ice instead of powdered snow. And just for good measure, we've added a series of random corners to make things kind of interesting. I guess things have sped up a bit too. At the top speeds of the Vancouver Games for me were in excess of 145 kilometers an hour. And other than that, it's basically the same. It's tobogganing. Now, skeleton actually was one of the original Winter Olympic sports. It predated its better-known siblings of bobsled and luge. But it got taken out of the program in 1948 because there were too many injuries and a couple fatalities. But I'm happy to say in 2002, skeleton made a comeback at the Salt Lake City Winter Olympics, and Canadians have fared very well in this pastime of ours. Toronto's Duff Gibson won the gold medal in Torino in 2006, and my good friend and teammate, the beer-chugging John Montgomery, won the gold in Vancouver in 2010. So that's skeleton. How do you get involved in this sport? Well, I went out to Calgary in 2001 for work at the Foothills Hospital out there in the diagnostic imaging department. And for those of you who know Calgary very well, you can find snow any month of the year out there. For the 7 months of winter out there, if you don't find some sort of recreation, you're going to lose a few marbles. Now, luckily for me, the legacy of the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympic Games was out there, and so I said, I'm going to try everything out. I put on the clap skates and skated around the oval. I skied down the mountains out there in the Rocky Mountains and did some free skate at the Saddle Dome. They wouldn't let me jump off the ski jump tower for some reason, but I would have if they gave me the chance. Now, when I went down the bobsled track on a skeleton sled, I knew I'd found something special, and I knew I wanted to pursue this as far as I could. And so I did. In 2003, I started sliding recreationally. By 2004, I had made the national development team, and things just kept getting better and better for me. I had a need for speed, as they say, and I was turning into a speed junkie. This drive took me to the highest level, the pinnacle of the sliding world in 2007, when I qualified for the World Cup Tour. That is essentially 8 tour stops around the world, and there's a World Championship every year. And every 4th year, that World Championships is the Olympics. Well, by 2008, I'd won my first international race. I had amassed more than a few top 10s and realized there was a chance that I could compete for Canada in the 2010 Winter Olympic Games. It would take a lot to get there. I mean, to be single-minded in purpose and to pursue perfection is quite the task. So I knew I'd have to quit my job at the hospital if I was going to train 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, 10 months a year. And so I did. I'd need the best equipment, which had a financial burden to it. I'd need to avoid getting injured. I'd need to eat a perfect diet. I'd need to sleep right. I would need to be great, and I knew I'd need to get lucky. There was a lot that had to happen just to get there. So in the 10-minute version of this story, I got over 4 difficult hurdles in the 4 months leading up to the Vancouver Games, and by mid-January, I had qualified for the big event. For those of you who watched it on TV, it was everything and all that. It was the pageantry, it was the passion, and it was simply overwhelming for me. There are few greater feelings in life than to represent your family, your community, and ultimately your country on one of the world's great stages. I mean, just to look at the faces of the proud Canadians who were lucky enough to carry the torch, you know, makes me think back of this one lady who, during her run, it was in the dead of night, pitch black. She was running through puddles. It was freezing cold. The rain was falling so hard it was coming back up to her knees, that height. And she had a smile on her face that just made you smile. And that's the spirit of the Olympics. It's so infectious. And it makes us forget about our differences, and it makes us just want to work together and be our best. So for me, I was ecstatic to be there. I don't know that I'll ever feel again the way I felt entering BC Place during the Parade of Nations at the opening ceremonies and sensing that deafening support, not just from the spectators in attendance, but from the living room sofas to the pubs, to the workplaces and all beyond. It was very palpable. And this was Canada's chance to showcase our pride, and boy did we ever. A close second for me, no doubt, was standing on the start line in front of 20,000 that night on a cold February night, looking, listening, and feeling to all the hope and celebration and happiness that embodies the Olympic spirit. It was undeniably a magic time for me. As with that great 4x400 meter relay race I was talking about 20 years earlier, there wouldn't be medals that night. Rosie McLennan certainly has set a high standard for King City Olympians. And just like that track meet, my Olympic experience was worth so much more than just a single result. So what I'll leave you with today is that success doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of persevering through hard times, learning from all your experiences, your victories, and your challenges. To do well in a race, there are many elements that contribute to success. And you know, there's the mental, there's the technical, and for sure there's the physical. But the most important of all in life is your attitude. And every morning when your feet hit the floor, when you jump out of bed, you set yourself up for a greater chance of success because of that attitude. As I've said, we're all living through examples put before us, and I'm forever thankful for my time at this school and shaping those attitudes and beliefs. I know if we continue to provide good examples for those around us, that the world ends up being a better place, and King City was certainly that for me. Thank you.